In this edition of our study of a little bit more advanced grammar in the book of Acts, we come to Acts 1:6. Let's translate it here. First of all, we notice this article, and the article is hoi, is going with the participle sunelthantes here. And you can see the parsing down here at the bottom of the page. Sunelthantes, aorist, active participle, plural, nominative plural, sunerkamai. And this is questioned whether this participle is adverbial or it's adjectival, but I think that the presence of the article here, hoi, argues that it's adjectival and in a substantive function, adjectival substantive participle. So now notice the transitional man un here, and the inclusion of man un before hoi and sunelthantes has caused some to say that this is an adverbial participle, and the hoi is simply standing for they, and therefore they, when they were gathered together, were asking him, saying. But I think it's better because man and un are always post-positive. So rather than see that as separating, I think it only underscores the fact that hoi goes with sunelthantes. The un here probably not is therefore, but it's more consequential with the idea of than. And then the man, of course, is pointing forward. Whenever you see man or man un, it's pointing forward to something that is going to take place. Then the ones gathered together were asking him. Notice here, erotone is the imperfect active indicative. Third plural from erotaho. So after the aorist participle, we have a number of verbals that are in the imperfect aspect. As a matter of fact, the rest of the verbals in this verse are. Erotone is imperfect, active, indicative. Then the present participle from lego, and then later not the future, but the present tense of akathistantes, present active indicative from akathistantes. Dano. And the aspect here conveys imperfective aspect, which is looking at all of this as a process. Now notice how the camera slows down here. First of all, there's the aorist participle conveying perfective aspect and simply describing it without any further elaboration, seeing the action as a whole. Then those who were gathered together, now watch the process here, were asking him, saying, are you at this time restoring the kingdom to Israel? So the camera slows down and gives us a closer look at these imperfective aspectual verbs. Now let's look at a few more grammatical matters here. Let's look at that participle. Now, this participle, legantes, as you can see, is present active participle, and it is an adverbial participle, and some might call it a redundant participle. In other words, this recalls the many times in the Old Testament when it says Moses spoke unto the children of Israel, lay more, saying, lay more, saying. And in the Septuagint, it is legantes. So this probably reflects a Septuagintalism. It isn't really necessary to translate. Therefore, some translations, oftentimes the NIV, will omit legantes in its translation because It says, then the ones who were gathered together were asking him, and you can go right on to the Lord. So that's why it's called by some a redundant participle, probably reflecting the Septuagintal emphasis on the translation of lemor as legantes. So, looking at this process, therefore, are then the ones who are gathered together were asking him, saying, Lord. And then we have this a sentence here. Right away, if we see an a, we're going to think that it's conditional. And if we translate it that way, we say, if you are restoring at this time the kingdom to Israel, but the sentence ends. So this is not the conditional use of the particle a. It's actually the interrogative use. So don't. I'm looking at the excellent little concise Greek English lexicon of the New Testament in the entry of a. Notice its entry here. A is a contingency marker used in two ways. One, it's used to set the stage for consideration of an event or course of act with aspects of contingency, thus eliciting the rendering if. And oftentimes a with the indicative is a first class conditional clause, or it can also be a second class conditional clause. But that's not what the situation is here, because if it was a conditional clause, there would be a protasis, but there would be no apodosis. As a matter of fact, that might even be one way of looking at it. It is if you are going to restore the kingdom to Israel, but there is no apodosis, so it really functions interrogatively first of all, as an indirect question, if or whether, and you can see the references there, or as it is here, introducing a direct question with a functioning as an interrogative marker. Is it right for a man to put away his wife? That question is preceded by a. And here in Acts 1:6 and 7:1, we have the same function of a as an interrogative marker. Now, questions can sometimes be asked with oo, and then they expect a positive answer. They can be asked with may, and they will expect a negative answer. Sometimes they are just asked with the indicative without any marker, but here is a marker A. If you're looking for a parallel in the Old Testament, if you look for the prefix ha, the interrogative hey, or if you look for the little particle im, that functions in the same way in the Hebrew Old Testament. And many of those times when im is used to introduce a question, the Septuagint will have a as the translation. So it's a straightforward question. Are you at this time? Okay, this time being the near demonstrative. In other words, right now. And of course, it conveys that attitude because of the present tense of apakastanes. Are you at this very time restoring the kingdom to Israel? Now, dispensationalists and covenant theologians argue about this. It's interesting, in the very next verse, Jesus does not say, no dummies, I'm not. He actually says to you in our next session, we'll see, he said to them, it's not for you to know the times or the kairos, the times or the season, but you are to go and preach the gospel as my witnesses. So Jesus does not really say. Now, of course, the reason they're asking this is that all the way back in Acts 1:3, we see that Jesus, during his 40 days of post-resurrection ministry was speaking the things concerning the kingdom of God. So you might expect them to ask that. Are you restoring the kingdom to Israel now? Okay, so that's the grammar of the verse. And the next session we'll be looking at the grammar of Acts 1:7.